Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Got a great show for you guys today here on this Wednesday evening. We'll talk about a few things. Of course, we got some breaking news as well. I'll get into that in a minute. It has to do with the war in Yemen. So, it's fantastic. But first, let's do the rundown of what we're going to talk about today. First, we've got an update on the possible government shutdown deal. We also have the we have Ann Coulter going after Donald Trump over the deal, of course. Then we have angry fans going after Tommy Lahren. That's fantastic. I love that story. It's probably one of my favorite. Then we have more fallout for the GOP tax cuts. Kamala Harris, then we've got more information about her record as a prosecutor. And then we have Dining While Black. Oh, that's great. I know you guys are probably wondering what's up with the intro music. I've been getting hit with copyright claims, which is weird because I actually purchased that music. So I have to go through the appeals process and show them that I purchased it. So right now I'm just not even using it. So we've got that, that whole mess and problem. So right now I'm just not using the intro music for the moment, but that's okay. So now, guys, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Consider, donating to the Super Chat, of course, and also joining Patreon or doing a channel membership. Right now, we're at 23 members, which is awesome. Thank you guys for signing up. I will, of course, give member shout-outs. We also have patrons, patreon.com/TYTNation. I'm going to shout out a couple of patrons now. We have Elaine Eustache, Alan Go, Alex Gowecki, Alexandre LaChapelle, and Alexandria Brakonovich. So thank you to those patrons. You can support us by going to patreon.com/TYTNation, and you help independent progressive media. All right, so that's that for the shout-outs and stuff like that. Now, before we get into it, we do have some excellent breaking news. Apparently, Congress has just voted to end Donald Trump's war in Yemen on behalf of Saudi Arabia. Now, this is being reported all over, but I'm going to read here from Vice. They said that the House of Representatives has sent President Trump a rebuke on Wednesday when they used the War Powers Act to cut off any U.S. military support for the ongoing war in Yemen. So now this went through the House by a vote of 248 to 177. It's now on its way to Senate, where apparently it's really, it's considered to be something that is actually going to pass through the Senate as well. That's controlled by Republicans, so that's pretty rare that you see a measure that goes past the democratically controlled House, goes to the Senate, and actually passes. Now, the president, of course, wants to veto it, is issuing a veto threat, so we're going to have to see if we can get 3/4 of Congress to override that veto so we can actually get out of the war in Yemen using that resolution. So I've got to give a big shout-out to Ro Khanna, who's been pushing this. He was one of the biggest proponents of this piece of legislation, using the War Powers Act to end the war in Yemen. So he's a bold progressive. He's a great progressive, and this is what you get. This is what you get when you actually, are progressive and when you support progressives. And I think this is a great step. So we need to get out of some of these ridiculous wars. We're going to stop, supporting Saudi Arabia in blockading and killing Yemenis. And again, this is a great step. So it's also another good step of trying to rein in President Trump and reduce his ability to be able to conduct these wars and to support, I should say, and to stop supporting places like Saudi Arabia. So I think it's great. Okay. Anyway, maybe I'll probably do a more in-depth story about it, how this came to place, but I think this is great. Okay. Now, let's get into the shutdown news. All right. So it appears we may actually be averting a government shutdown. It's being reported that Trump has signaled that he will sign the bipartisan border security deal in order to avoid another disastrous shutdown. Of course, there are mixed signals coming out of the White House. Now they're saying, oh, yeah, Trump's not committed, but Trump himself had said he's not happy about it. But then, of course, there are other reports saying that he is actually willing to sign it. So, again, we'll have to see, but it's actually looking fairly positive. Now, CNN cites two unnamed sources who have spoken directly with the president and said that Trump will sign the agreement. Now, this agreement includes $1.375 billion for about 50 miles of fencing along the Texas border with Mexico. Now, of course, that fencing is bollard fencing, so it's more like steel slats. And so it's, yes, it's kind of a physical barrier, but then again, it's not a concrete, no, it's not a big, beautiful concrete wall. So I guess that's some progress, at least in stopping him from getting his big, beautiful wall. But here's the thing. It also adds $1.7 billion for border security measures, including technology at ports of entry, and there's a reduction in the number of beds in immigrant detention centers, as I had reported yesterday. So all in all, it's not a great deal for either side. Both sides both basically hate it. But you know what? At this point, you got to look at the positive. You got to look at the bright side. Donald Trump got a lot less than he had asked for. Remember, he was asking for $5.7 billion for an actual physical concrete barrier. And look, it's also a lot more than what Democrats have previously offered. If you guys remember, Chuck Schumer had actually offered $25 billion for the wall, which is insane. That was the Democratic offer, and President Trump turned him down because he's greedy and stupid. So I think at the end of the day, $1.375 billion for some steel slats, it's not horrible. It's not great. I'd rather there be no money directed towards that, because in reality, we don't actually need it. It is a waste of money. It is unnecessary. But at this point, it does prevent a government shutdown, which would cost even more. It would cost a lot of people jobs, a lot of people money. There's a lot of people that are still affected by the previous government shutdown that have not recovered. And it will take them quite some time to recover, right? So anyway, I know some of you might disagree with this and call this a fold. And I hear you guys. And I kind of partly agree. They got something, right? And the Democrats didn't get really a whole lot other than to avoid a Democratic shutdown. So I completely understand, right? Again, I'd love there to be no funding for any sort of border security or steel slats. Not because I don't believe in border security, it's because we don't necessarily need it. Our border security right now is actually really, really good. I mean, it's good enough to catch the tons of heroin that's coming in. And besides, when it comes to drugs, the majority of drugs, yes, some come through legal ports of entry, but in reality, the biggest drug dealers are right here. It's the big pharmaceutical companies. They're the ones that are actually driving the opioid epidemic, the opioid crisis. So if you want to go after the drug dealers, you want to go after them. And of course, the Republicans, they disagree. They don't want to go after the actual drug dealers. In reality, of course, they want to go after the myth of people with cantaloupe calves. Yeah, no, that's not how people get to the border. And that's not how drugs get here, okay? There are tunnels, and there are drones, and there are submarines, etc., etc. So, in reality, a wall, or steel slats, or fencing, whatever, is just, it's not a solution. Or it's a solution looking for a problem. So, nobody won in this deal, which I guess in the era of Trump is the best that you can realistically ask for at the moment. But anyway, I guess I'm just here picking my battles and glad that we're not having another ridiculous government shutdown. So, okay. So that's the latest news on that. So let's go to some reaction. All right. Now we have Ann Coulter. Now, recently, Republicans and Democrats came to a bit of a compromise that both sides generally didn't like to avoid shutting down the government over Trump's ridiculous wall. Now, what it would do is it would shuffle some money, about $1.375 billion, to fund about 55 miles of bollard fencing, also known as steel slats, right? So it's not a concrete wall, so Trump can't necessarily call this a win, even though he could probably lie to his supporters and say, oh, the big, beautiful steel slats. Anyway, now this was in exchange, of course, for keeping the government open and reducing the beds of some detention centers by a small amount. I'd rather us get rid of those detention centers completely and stop actually imprisoning undocumented immigrants for coming over the border. Now, of course, conservatives were not thrilled. Sean Hannity, of course, called it a garbage compromise. And on Twitter, Ann Coulter attacked the president again. She tweeted out, Trump talks a good game on the border wall, but it's increasingly clear that he's afraid to fight for it. Call this his Yellow New Deal. Now, of course, she references, in a way, AOC's Green New Deal. Now, the Green New Deal has about 80% public opinion approval, right? Now, that's an incredibly popular program. It aims to get us carbon neutral within the next 10 years. Great. That's something that actually is needed. That addresses a real problem, climate change. It doesn't address a fake problem like immigration, right? Or hordes of people coming over the border. Because immigration, yes, there is issues with immigration. The fact that people have to wait 20 to 30, 40 years in order to be able to get into this country legally. That is a big problem with our immigration system, and we do need reform. So we could rush some immigration judges down there, expedite some cases, help people that are claiming asylum get into the country faster, make things more efficient, et cetera, et cetera. That is a real problem with immigration. Not, oh, people are coming over the border. No, there is net zero immigration. More people are leaving than coming in. And if you want to go after undocumented immigration or illegal immigration, if you want to call it that, well, most undocumented immigrants come here legally and stay over their visas. They fly in. They don't cross the desert. So, maybe we should actually target the real problem. But of course, people like Ann Coulter and a lot of the right wing, Donald Trump, well, they don't see the real problem. What they're doing is that they're basically demagoguing in order to get votes to stir up fear. So, that said, Trump, look, he's only kind of fighting for it, right? Because, look, the only reason that he is because he knows that his racist followers really want it. That they are deathly afraid of immigrants, of brown people coming in and apparently replacing them. It's like a conspiracy theory on the right that you have, and this relates to real anti-Semitism as well, that there are Jewish people that are funding caravans that are coming to replace Americans with Mexicans. It's weird. It's weird. And they're coming to take their jobs and their welfare, which is the Schrodinger's immigrant, which they are simultaneously taking your job and your welfare at the same time. That's crazy how that works. But look, this is not a real issue, right? But he knows his followers want it. He knows his followers are super, super afraid. And when you're afraid, you're easy to manipulate. So Trump's finally, in his second year, go, oh yeah, that's right, I got to build a wall. Oh crap, I just gave giant tax cuts to myself. So I got to do something on the wall or my followers are going to be extremely mad at me. And they're not going to vote for me in 2020, right? And there's another reason, of course. He knows he's lost. That's why he's not fighting for it, too. He knows another shutdown will be a disaster. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Still, I had my reservations and I don't know if Trump's smart enough to realize the position that he's in is actually not really good. But no, it turns out he actually does have some self-awareness. And look, not only that, let's be honest, right? He knows he can lie to his supporters about the wall being built. He knows. And look, he knows that he can lie about it without actually building something. So it's a little weird, but again, he lies so often and so shamelessly to everyone. Would it really be so much to believe that he could lie successfully to his own supporters? But there is one person that's not fooled, and that's Ann Coulter. She knows that there will not be a border wall, and she is not happy about it. Her and a lot of other conservatives, Tommy Lahren has also spoken up. Sean Hannity, of course. Fox and Friends, interestingly enough, says, take the deal, take the deal, take the deal. So there is a bit of a schism here on the right when it comes to this wall. So look, I'm hoping that he does not find a way to fund the wall. I know Mexico's not going to pay for it. I know Congress is not going to approve it. And I know the emergency whatever that he's going to try to, or possibly try to declare, is also probably not going to work. So he's out of options. There will be no wall. And to that, I say, great. Okay. All right, I need to take one quick break here. We'll come back. We have the Tommy Lahren story. So we'll do that. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get that story out of the way. And then we've got more stuff on taxes and the Kamala Harris story you're not going to want to miss. So please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Like and share. That helps us out. Super chats or comments, I'll read them when I come back. Stay right here around the nation. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldman with you. Okay. So no, I know a lot of you in the chat are saying YouTube has royalty-free music. I'm aware of that. I just haven't had time to actually look through to find something that is usable, that is decent. Also, again, I own the copyright to that music. I bought a copy. I have all that. I just have to go through the BS of doing the appeal. I even contacted the company that I bought it from. They said, yeah, it just automatically does that. You can appeal it and it'll be done. It's just, I haven't really been, you know, like, I've been so busy getting other things done that it's just been, I just haven't had a lot of time to actually go through that. And actually, who wants to do that? Like, I find that just incredibly annoying. But anyway, before I get into the show, into more stories, I just want to ask, like, who else, like, I know there's some gamers in the audience, so I was wondering if any one of you are actually looking forward towards playing Anthem. So, I was just, again, I was wondering, what, you know, if any of you are actually waiting, because I'm actually interested, and I tweeted about it. I tried out the beta, and I was like, God, this is actually kind of fun. The only problem is you have to play with other people, and I kind of hate that. So I don't know if any of you have that kind of problem. It's weird. I play multiplayer games. I play MMOs, and then I despise I despise playing with other people that I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. But anyway, just to let you, just to ask you guys though, how many of you actually plan to play Anthem? So, because again, it looks really good. I have played the beta. I have already got it downloaded for PC. So we're gonna see how well it, you know, how well it plays now that it's complete. Okay. Anyway, now let's get into actual show. All right. Is that the right one? Yeah, I think so. So there's nothing better than Republican on Republican crime. So a good example of that is Tommy Lahren. Now, earlier today, Tommy Lahren went after President Trump for signaling that he will sign a deal to avert a government shutdown on Friday. Now, the deal, of course, offers no money for any new wall, but includes about $1.4 billion for 55 miles of rural fencing that is bollard fencing that is basically steel slats, right? Okay. All right. Now, Trump originally demanded $5.7 billion to try to build 200 miles of new concrete wall. He ended up getting nothing, which is great because we don't need a wall. A wall is ridiculous. Anyway, now Tommy, of course, tweeted this, quote, "I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If Donald Trump takes this sham border deal from the Democrats, he loses in 2020, and we all lose for years to come." Well, that's a bold prediction, Tommy, especially since the wall is actually really unpopular to begin with. And not only that, but Donald Trump himself is incredibly unpopular. And the last time that we went into a government shutdown, it actually went really, really bad for him. You know why? Because he owned the shutdown. He said, "This is my shutdown. I shut it down. Blame me." Interesting. But anyway, I got bad news for you, Tommy. He is taking the deal. Why? It's because he knows he's not going to get a better deal. And look, do I think the Democrats could have gotten a deal with no steel slat funding? Maybe. Look, to be honest, I would have loved for them to have gotten no money for that wall. But again, you take what you're given, right? At this point, pick your battles. Anyway, now, the best part here is Trump supporters who were not happy with Tammy. And they decided to tweet her to set her straight. And I love this. Before I give you her responses, though, or their responses, I have to let you guys know, as a fact, there has been no actual work on the wall. There are no sections of the wall that are built at this point. There is no big concrete sections. They have not broke ground. Nothing. Okay, with that in mind, let's get to the tweets. Kenneth Schmidt says, "Ye've little faith. The wall is being built as we speak." Kathy Gray says, "He has money to build the $23 billion, tweeted it tonight." He has money to build the wall. Where did he get that money? No, he doesn't have money. That is straight up remotely not even true at all. Montgomery Granger says, "Tommy, I get your spiel, and I'm down with it. But realize Trump is not a politician." Well, I think it's fairly obvious. Listen to what he says, that he is building the wall and has been since day one. He is building the wall without actually building the wall. Like, the wall is literally being built as he has done nothing about it. Really? Weird. That's kind of an amazing thing, that you can build something without actually building it. I wonder if you can complete something without actually building something. Well, look, maybe Trump will say, I have built the wall, when there's actually no physical wall. But anyway, that same guy says he's about getting things done. One way or the other, support him, trust him. Hashtag MAGA 2020, grit, hoo-ah. But again, what has he done? Nothing. I mean, okay, well, he has done some things. Tax cuts for the rich and deregulation for corporations. But nothing on the wall. In fact, he spent most of his time getting tax cuts for the rich and deregulating business, industry. And then finally, as an afterthought, came back and said, oh, right, yeah, I got to build a wall. But still, the fervency of the true believers comes out. T-Law says, there is a plan up his sleeve. No, there's not. He doesn't plan anything. But he continues, he did what he had to do. Year one, he had his own party against him. Not on the tax cuts. He has fought every day in the White House for us. In between executive time. He works harder than any of the president against horrible, disgusting opposition. He will build a wall and defund Planned Parenthood. They're still doing Planned Parenthood. Oh my God, these people actually believe this stuff because they live in an alternate reality with alternative facts. No, you know what he did in the first year? He spent all of his time getting himself tax cuts and tax cuts for his businesses and then trying to take away healthcare. This is unreal. This is unreal. There's more. Writer C.R. Hyatt says, I disagree with you. President Trump will get the money for the wall without Democrats' help. It's already in the works. Hashtag build a wall, crime will fall. No, you know that's why that's not going to happen? Because it's literally not how our government functions. You can't authorize funding without Congress. Congress has the purse strings. The president can't just take funding. That's not within his purview. He's not a king. Okay, he can't do that. Even his plan of declaring an emergency in order to raid funding from the military in order to build sections of the wall, that's not even guaranteed. And so if he tries, there will be a massive court challenge because it might not be constitutional. There's more. Oh, you know what? That's so funny too, because there's always the claims of Democrats. They don't care about the Constitution. They're always violating the Constitution. King Obama. But if Trump tries to do that and gets challenged by the Constitution, what are they going to say? Exactly. The pretzels they will bend themselves into. I love it. But there's more. KB says, Tommy, he's been building the wall this whole time. They're too stupid to realize that. He says, I support POTUS no matter what. You're sounding like fake news. Don't do that. No, fake news. Fake news is saying that he is actually building the wall right now, which he's not. Just the irony of that tweet is off the charts, man. I mean, physically show me the big, beautiful barrier that they're building. Oh, right. There is no such thing. It doesn't exist. It's not real. Sort of like the idea that cutting taxes reduces the deficit. It's not real. It doesn't work like that. Fake news. Kathleen Free says, I don't agree with you, Tommy. I believe President Trump has his bases covered. His deplorables stand with him. We know the battle he is fighting. Don't be another Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter, of course, has been incredibly critical because he has not built the wall to keep the scary brown people out. And so she's literally scared to death of brown people coming in. And so she's like, I got to have the wall. I got to have the wall. Now there's more. Texan says, and this is the last one. Considering the obstacles he's had to endure since day one, I'll support him a second term no matter what. And if you don't see his strategy, then sit down and learn something. There are people that believe that Donald Trump has a strategy. That he is smart enough to sit and strategize politically how to outwit politicians. Nobody believes that. You can't possibly think that's true. He doesn't think. He barely even reads. I mean, he's a one-pager kind of guy. And this guy's like, no, he's playing not three-dimensional chess. He's playing four-dimensional chess. And he's about to checkmate you and get that wall. No, man, that's not happening at all. No, what he's doing is he's gaslighting the American people. He's literally lying and telling people what reality is. Don't believe your lying eyes. He said this before, right? In a manner of speaking. No, what you see is being reported is not true. That's not the reality. Only I can tell you what the reality is. Well, what is the reality? He's not getting a wall. If it couldn't happen with Republicans controlling all three branches of government, then it's not going to happen now where we have divided government. And the Democrats actually feel more emboldened. These people, man, I kind of feel bad for them, right? Because they're so deluded. I mean, they're so afraid, too. They're so fearful. And they have bought in through their fear, because I feel like fear messes with your ability to think, right? And if you are afraid all the time of whether it be change or, different people that, like brown people, black people, etc., because we know that's who they're afraid of. People that speak different languages than them. Oh, I'm afraid that you're going to be talking about me behind my back or right in front of me because I can't understand what you're saying. That fear makes people lose any rational thought. And it makes people more perceptible to lies. So it's, they're impressionable and you can lie to them. And that's what Trump did during his, inauguration or one of his speeches, maybe his acceptance speech during the Republican convention. He said, only I can save you. This is a dangerous world and only Donald Trump can save you. That's directly appealing to the authoritarianism, which again, Republicans, conservatives believe in authoritarianism, authoritarian leaders, and they believe that they should have all the power. It's insane. But look, they buy into the lies. And people like Tommy and Ann, see what's different about Tommy, Lahren, and Ann Coulter, mentioning them, is that they're in it for the grift. They don't actually believe this stuff. I actually believe that Ann Coulter is an actor. I believe that Tommy Lahren is an actor. Have you seen some of the videos before she became a conservative? She was arguing in favor of climate change and what we should do about it. And she was also tweeting about going to the club and popping that pee. So, no, she's not a genuine conservative. She turned conservative. She did a Dave Rubin before Dave Rubin. Oh, conservatives are going to offer me a ton of money to sit there and lie to people? Yes! Oh, I'll take it. Yeah, give me that sweet, sweet cash. Again, just like Dave Rubin, Rubin says, oh, you're going to give me money to spew lies? Yeah, I want to be rich. I want to have all that money so that I can talk, so that I can live how I want to live. I want to have a lot of money. And you want me to tell lies on behalf of rich people and corporations in order to lower their taxes? Great. Yes, I will absolutely do that. And yes, I will fearmonger against people who are different than I am. It's gross. It's so gross. But they do see the reality. And those actors are in it for the grift. But these hardcore Trump supporters, they're different than that. They actually believe. They're living in a different universe. They are the true believers. And they have fallen into the cult of personality. And look, any deviation from that cult, as you can see, just by simply pointing out factual information is enough to get you kicked out of the cult. They didn't even disagree. No, they're saying, This decision, this won't get you a wall. And the Trump supporters are like, no, it will. It'll get me the wall. No, it won't. No. The supreme irony, of course, is that these people, Ann Coulter, helped build that monster. She literally wrote a book called In Trump We Trust. They built that monster, that Frankenstein, and now they're getting attacked by it. Irony. Okay. Moving on. Let's get into the taxes. The GOP tax plan continues to anger conservatives who are expecting a windfall on their 2018 returns. Now, it all started when Donald Jr. Was defending the tax cuts against recent criticism that the returns were not big enough. He said, quote, most middle-class Americans got tax cuts despite smaller early returns. The smaller refund checks were not indicators that taxes have gone up. For middle-class families with children, over 80% got tax cuts. Now, look, is that true? Look, yes, there are people that got tax cuts. The problem is that what was cut for the middle class was a mere pittance compared to the average tax cut of $63,000 a year that the top 1% received. So when it comes to who got their taxes cut more, wealthy people made out like bandits thanks to the GOP tax law. In fact, the top 1.1% of Americans will save an average of more than $190,000 a year. Those corporate tax cuts, by the way, are permanent. And they have been a windfall for corporations that have used a lot of that money to go do stock buybacks, which help executives and shareholders, not regular workers. So, again, a majority of that tax cut went to benefit the ultra wealthy. Now, you want to compare that to the school teacher that was saving about $1.50 a week. And the average middle-class family, according to the Tax Foundation, is scheduled to get save about $630 per year. Wow. Wow, what a great return compared to the ultra-rich. Come on, guys. This was barely a middle-class tax cut. A lot of their people also saw their taxes go up. In fact, this has a lot to do with some of the more popular deductions that were eliminated or reduced. For example, the personal exemption for large families. That was eliminated. It also put a limit on the amount you could deduct from state and local taxes, which has a really, really big impact on people living in high-tax states. Now, some of those high-tax states, like New York and California, are also some of the most populous states. So you have a ton of people there living in that area that can no longer deduct state and local taxes. That is a tax increase. So they did all that, raise taxes on a significant portion of the middle class. Also, they could lower the corporate tax the corporate tax rates to 21%, and also lower rates on the very, very wealthy. Suffice to say, these changes did not sit well, even with conservatives, even with people who are Trump supporters. Now, I have some examples here. Save RAX says, love you, Donald Trump Jr., but I am getting effed in my tax return and had no way to prepare for it. Let me stop there. We told you that this was going to happen. We told you that you were not going to save money. We told you that the majority of the benefits went to the rich. It's not a middle-class tax cut. It's a tax cut for the wealthy. And it is a scam. But what did you say? Oh, no. Well, we don't believe the lying libs, the liberal, so-called liberal media. No, we don't believe any of that. And then what happens is exactly what we say is going to happen. And like, I didn't see it coming. Yeah, nobody told me. Nobody told me. Oh, they said it was going to be a middle-class tax cut. Turned out it wasn't a middle-class tax cut. It went to the rich. No kidding. Maybe you should stop listening to Fox News, which, by the way, Fox News is literally blaming these people for not getting a big tax return. Hey, it's your fault. You didn't adjust your withholdings. There's more. I'm not even done with that first tweet. Now, he said, they continued, first time I will owe in my life. I feel a bit cheated. I didn't even notice my paychecks were a bit bigger because I switched jobs at the beginning of the year. My guess is that you probably wouldn't have noticed anyway. Those savings per paycheck are significant. Maybe at most a cup of coffee a week. That is not a big tax cut for the middle class. There's more. Lee Brewer says, property tax and interest cap is putting us in the minus. And he points out that he is an upstate New Yorker, which of course you don't have that deduction anymore for state and local taxes. Betsy Obrachta says, here in Ohio too, add the other deductions removed, i.e. home office for one in our case, and it's a loss. Sorry, Junior, but you've got this wrong. Mark Perez says, Donald Trump Jr. need to get the working class a bigger pay raise and a bigger tax refund. Maybe better healthcare and prescription drug cuts. Get them hashtag Trump 2020 votes. Well, you know what? A lot of that stuff actually sounds pretty good. I'm in favor of middle class tax cuts. I'm in favor of pay raises and bigger tax refunds, better healthcare and lower prescription drug prices. I want all those things. Well, the problem is that Donald Trump, the Republicans, they don't actually care about the working class. What they do is that they use them for votes. No. See, here's the thing. Whatever happened to that 10% tax cut that Trump came out with after the Trump tax scam went through? He's like, I'm proposing an additional 10% tax cut for the middle class. But wait, didn't you just say that you passed a middle class tax cut? Oh, right. Now you're admitting that it wasn't actually for the middle class, and we haven't heard anything about it since. So it wasn't a middle class tax cut. You admitted it, and now you put forward another tax cut for the middle class that you didn't push whatsoever. They don't care about you. They don't care about you at all. Prescription drug prices. None of the plans put forward by the Trump administration, by Republicans, will do anything to lower prescription drug prices. In fact, the prices of prescription drugs have actually increased. He's not doing anything for that. What about wages? Wages are still flat and stagnant. Even after these gigantic tax cuts, which these companies put it back in their pockets. They went and bought back their own stock, and they used that money to inflate the values of their shares, which of course then they can sell off and pocket the difference and make tons and tons and tons of money. That's what they did. They didn't raise your wages. They gave some bonuses out, which were actually fairly little compared to the amount that they saved in taxes. And of course, most of that money obviously went back to them. And we warned them about that too. So we've done this before. We've seen this movie. We've tried trickle down before. And guess what? It never works. You know, I guess the image that you get from trickle down is the wine glasses, right? All stacked on each other. Well, their wine glass on the top keeps getting bigger. It does not flow downward. It never does. And when will people start understanding that? But anyway, there's more. Lance Rothenberg says, personal exemptions gone, itemized deductions capped and done away with. Converting from itemized deduction to the standard deduction means tax increase. The middle class gets screwed. So that's interesting because part of the legislation, that tax law is, well, they doubled the standard deduction from $12,000 for a married couple to $24,000, right? And I think it was $6,000 to $12,000 for single adults. Apparently, itemized deductions, while a little bit more difficult to do, and of course with tax preparers, which by the way, In the old tax system, you actually got a deduction for using tax preparers. That was also eliminated, but they said, well, we're going to make it easier for you to take the standard deduction. But in some cases, itemized deductions actually will save you more. So without that ability to do that, some people end up paying more in taxes. So that's what you have. Now, this next tweet addresses what Charles Payne had talked about yesterday on his show about increasing withholdings. Ron Redigo says, when the changes were abounded, I doubled my extra withholdings. I got back $200 less than before. Explain that. Well, I can explain it. You got screwed. All while corporations got billions of dollars in tax cuts. Even the bankers took $21 billion home in savings. And again, with just like we saw with other jobs, other corporations that get giant tax cuts, the banks, they actually cut jobs and have loaned out less money. They're even stingier with their money than they were before. And of course, what's the worst is that we warned you about this. We told you what was going to happen. More. One more here. Michelle. She says, just thinks we got way less, like $6,000 less. I get it. Just we used and depended on that money for our kids' schooling. Now that's sad because you expected a return. You're not going to get a return. But here's what is maddening about this. They say, keep on fighting. We live on Long Island in New York, and I feel we pay for the entire state. That right there shows you how no matter how many facts you come at them with, and how you can show them how this tax cut was not geared towards them, but to the very wealthy, there will still be people out there that say, no, I don't agree with facts. I mean, even though there's literal proof out here that Donald Trump and the GOP lied about their tax plan, helping the middle class, and not being a boon for the rich, people still don't believe it. They believe, oh no, this was going to help me. And well, it turned out that it didn't, but that's okay. Donald Trump still has the best, he's the best president, and he's working so hard. And he's working for us, but you just have proof that he's not working for you. I mean, they're absolute unabashed liars. They lied to your face. They took your money and they gave it right to the rich so they can afford another yacht. It's not the poor, the people who are powerless, that are robbing you. It's the powerful. They are taking your money and they're passing, well, first they are passing laws in order to take your money. Never, never vote for Republicans. This is why you shouldn't. Because they will lie to you, they will rob you, and they will take that money and they will give it to the rich. That's what they always do. When will you learn? Okay. I'm going to take a quick break here. We'll come back with the Kamala story. You're not going to want to miss that. Now I'm worked up, so that should be a fun segment. So we'll take a break. We'll come back. Stay right here. Round the Nation. Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Last story of the day. Let's move into it. Let's get my sidebar up. All right. So there are more details about Kamala Harris's record as prosecutor in California. And it turns out those details are not great. Now, this is according to the Daily Beast. Harris's office had apparently once made the case that nonviolent offenders needed to stay in prison longer because they were a great source of cheap labor. Now, that, of course, is literal slavery, or basically virtual slavery, right? So let me give you some of the details. Back in 2011, the Supreme Court had a case where they ruled in Brown versus Plata. Now, in that decision, they found that California's prisons were so overcrowded that they had violated the Constitution's prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment. So, by 2014, the state was now ordered to allow nonviolent second-time offenders who have served half their sentence to be eligible for parole. So, now that's good, right? So these people, of course, are nonviolent offenders. Yes, they have reoffended once, likely because, let's be honest, possession, right? Possession is probably one of the biggest, crimes that people get put in prison for, thanks to our war on drugs. Now, another part is that these people are likely more minority. So minorities get arrested at higher rates than white people, despite being less of the population. Now, of course, they should, in my view, they should be considered for parole, or at least to be eligible for parole, right? But it turns out that Kamala Harris' office did not agree. In fact, according to court filings, lawyers for the state said California met benchmarks for these parolees and argued that if certain potential parolees were given a faster track out of prison, it would negatively affect the prison's labor programs. Now, those labor programs include some that allow inmates to fight California's wildfires for about $2 a day. Now, they said extending 2-for-1 credits to all minimum custody inmates at this time would severely impact fire camp participation, a dangerous outcome while California is in the middle of a difficult fire season and severe drought. This is lawyers for Kamala Harris's office, and they wrote in this filing, they also noted that the fire camp program required physical fitness in addition to a level of clearance that allowed the felon to be off-site. So now that's interesting, right? That's their argument. Not only that, they said, but they added that draining the prisons of minimum custody inmates would deplete the labor force both internally and local communities where low-level nonviolent offenders worked for pennies on the dollar, collecting trash and tending to city parks. So, again, that is free labor. That is labor. Those are jobs that could have been done by regular working Americans at a decent wage. Instead, here you had the government saying, that's okay, we have a prison labor force that can do that for these companies and for the government for super, super cheap. Lovely. And their argument is, of course, if you let them go on parole, then we're going to lose that revenue. We're going to lose that labor force. Can't do that. We got to keep them in prison. That's ridiculous. Not only that, but that's disgusting. Now, in the end, of course, the state went the right route and extended the 2-for-1 credits to all eligible minimum security prisoners, allowing more people to be fast-tracked to parole. So now, Harris's office, they lost on that issue, thank goodness. Now, Donald Spector, executive director for the Prison Law Office and lead counsel on that case, said, quote, once we ridiculed them and flagged them for that, they ended up changing their tune. But that was their initial response. So now, her lawyers had made that response, had made that argument initially, and then corrected course, right? So that was her lawyers. What about Kamala Harris herself? Well, she told BuzzFeed News 2 months after the arguments were made on her behalf that she was, quote, shocked by it, telling the publication that she was going to look into this. I am shocked and appalled. I'm going to go look into this. I'm going to make sure that we don't make an argument like that again. According to spokesman Ian Sams, as she said at the time, Senator Harris was shocked and troubled by the use of this argument. She looked into it and directed the department's attorneys not to make that argument again. Why? Because it's a terrible argument. Yes, we would rather exploit prisoners than actually allow people to go and get paroled and actually not have to work for $2 a day. So, and again, these are non-violent offenders, right? And by the way, this is campaign spokesman Ian Sams, because this had just recently come up. Now, her office, on behalf of the State Corrections Department, then came to the table with the plaintiff's representatives to negotiate an agreement, which the court subsequently approved, that led to an expansion of the 2-for-1 credits. Now, that's her campaign, as I said. Whether you believe that that's what happened, well, that's up to you. But there is one person who doesn't believe it. Or, well, more than one person, but one person mentioned in the article, and that's Specter. Now, he said, as far as I know, she did very little, if anything, to improve the criminal justice system when she was Attorney General. The way that I look at it is she was really late to the party, and more importantly, when she had the authority to do something as Attorney General, she was absent. She basically carried on the policies of her predecessor, for the most part, in battling us on getting the prison population down and anything else that the government wanted to do to prevent prison conditions from improving. Understand that? To stop them from improving. There were issues, there were problems. One of them was, of course, too many people in prison. These were documented problems. They knew. But under Harris, it got so bad, and she was so much into inaction that she had to get embarrassed into doing something. I think this is far from being a progressive prosecutor. You want progressive? You look at Larry Krasner in Philly. Since he got elected, he's been reshaping the criminal justice landscape, going against police chiefs and judges, not prosecuting as many people, which is actually kind of a good thing, right? That's the complete opposite of Harris's record. Now, Laura Baslin, law professor and former director of the Loyola Law School Project for the Innocent in L.A., had recently wrote an op-ed in the New York Times before Harris launched her campaign. And she said, quote, time after time, when progressives urged her to embrace criminal justice reforms as district attorney and then the state's attorney general, Ms. Harris opposed them or stayed silent. You know what that says to me? That Harris, just like Obama, doesn't want to rock the boat. Doesn't want to be confrontational. Doesn't really want to fight. Just wants to be establishment. Steady as we go. We're going to continue on the same path, and we're not going to do massive reform. Now, she talks a great game. Big reforms. I love that kind of talk. That kind of talk perks my ears up, and I get interested. Oh, you want to do Medicare for all? Oh, that sounds great. I love Medicare for all. You want to do actual prison reform? I'm all ears. I want to listen. I can't wait. But if you don't really mean it, then I got no interest. And see, we can tell if you mean it or not. We can look into the past. We can look into your positions and see whether or not you actually stood for criminal justice reform. If you actually stood for healthcare, we can look at your donors. And so what I'm seeing right now from doing all of that stuff is there's more all talk and no action. Sorry, Kamala. Okay. That's all I got for you guys today. We'll do the Dining While Black story tomorrow. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for going on the nation. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. TYT is coming up next, so go watch that if you want to, and join us here tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Love you guys, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see y'all tomorrow.